So anyway, now in terms of this session, which is on strengthening the functioning of the CCPD and SPDs, which is something that we've been talking about throughout this 2-day period. But I'm hoping that this session will be able to provide some further food for thought. So I'll call on Dr. Satyendra Singh really to give you context as to what is to be discussed, and then he will take it ahead from there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rahul. Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, and gender diverse individuals. So this is a session which is quite important in the sense that we all know the problems and we need to arrive at possible solutions. So here's an attempt to identify what are the lacunas and what is the possible way forward. To take the session forward, I invite Shrutika from iPro.
Thank you so much.
A warm good afternoon to each one of you present here. My name is Shrutika. I am a lawyer and program officer at iPro Bono, a social justice organization dedicated to providing pro bono quality legal representation to those in need. My colleague Karuvaki will delve deeper into the organization during the concluding remarks. We are honored to have distinguished members from various SCPDs and CCPD in this room today. I seize this opportunity to set the stage for the upcoming panel discussion on strengthening the functioning of Central and State Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities. This panel discussion builds upon the insights shared yesterday by the Honorable former Chief Justice of India, Mr. U. Lalit, addressing crucial aspects of the functioning of Central and State level Commissioners. The Office of Commissioners for Persons with Disability play a pivotal role in implementing the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. Their significance extends to various domains, but primarily the complaint handling mandate outlined in Section 75B and 80B of the 2016 Act. These offices act as a crucial point of contact for grievance redressal, serving as gateways to safeguarding and enforcing the rights of persons with disability. With nearly 7 years of the enactment of the 2016 Act, we have observed commendable efforts by both state and central commissioners. Yesterday, we had the pleasure to learn of some of the best practices implemented by the state commissioners. However, today's discussion will be focusing solely on complaint handling. We aim to reflect on past experiences, share insights, identify legislative gaps, and collaboratively work towards strengthening the current system. The two themes guiding today's discussion aim to explore legal avenues for enhancing the efficacy of SCPD and CCPD. The overarching goal is to provide persons with disability a streamlined solution for their grievance, eliminating the need for them to navigate a complex system. In the first theme, our esteemed panelists will delve into the issue of non-implementation of orders of CCPD and SCPD. As many of you have likely encountered in your respective roles, the non-implementation of orders by state authorities remain a significant challenge in the functioning of the Commissioner's office. When orders issued by commissions go unheeded, the complaint handling mandate becomes futile. Hence, it is crucial for us to engage in discussion that identify and address this issue, acknowledging gaps in the legal framework and exploring avenues for robust interventions and stringent implementation. The second theme seamlessly flows from the first, delving into how commissioners can leverage special courts to enforce their orders. With a concise overview yesterday of the provisions allowing penalties and jail term, our discussion will explore the collaborative potential between the Commissioner's Office and Special Court under the RPWD Act. We'll examine on how these offices can work together to ensure a more robust and stringent implementation. Our diverse panel today includes representatives from SCPD sharing their practical perspective of dealing with state authorities, individuals with disabilities sharing the complainant's experience, expert lawyers offering legal insights on relevant provisions of the 2016 Act, and crucial voices from the civil society organization. With this varied mix, I anticipate a rich dialogue on strengthening the roles of Central and State Commissioner for Persons with Disability. The discussion will be moderated by Dr. Satyendra Singh, a medical professional and prominent disability rights activist who has been a key voice in this space, and Advocate Rahul Bajaj, a leading disability rights advocate and co-founder of Mission Accessibility. I would like to take this moment to briefly introduce the panel. The panelists today are Ms. Bhakti Ghatole. She is a research assistant for the Initiative of Health, Equity, Advocacy and Research, I HEAR, at Sangat, Bhopal. She's a gold medalist from Nagpur University and masters from TIS Mumbai. Bhakti is an early career public health researcher with a passion for health equity. Ms. Dietno Nakru is the Nagaland State Commissioner for Persons with Disability and former editor of Eastern Mirror. She is the recipient of the Angami Kevichusa Citizenship Award 2020 for her outspoken advocacy for the rights of persons with disability. Dr. Naunita Gangwani, a medical professional, defies stereotypes and advances for inclusivity after being declared unfit for teaching by the Medical Board for Safdarjung Hospital. She today is an assistant professor of physiology at VMMC College and Safdarjung Hospital. Mr. Ranjan Mukherjee is the State Commissioner for Persons with Disability, Delhi. He has a 35-year career in the Indian Air Force marked by leadership, including prominent roles such as Additional Director General at Prasar Bharati and Advisor cum Secretary to the Honorable Minister of State Agriculture. Advocate Siddharth Nath is an advocate on record with over 8 years of practice in the Supreme Court and the Delhi High Court. He is also an I Pro Bono panel lawyer impaneled on our civil panel in Delhi. He demonstrates a commitment to justice by providing pro bono legal representation to persons with disability. Ms. Smita Sadasivan is a disability rights activist actively shaping policies on the Tamil Nadu State Advisory Board for Persons with Disabilities and contributing to global healthcare inclusivity through the Civil Society Engagement Mechanism for UHC 2030. She also founded the Disability Rights Alliance in Tamil Nadu and is involved with the Multiple Sclerosis Society of India, Chennai. With this, I hand over the mic to Dr. Singh to begin the first theme, and I invite Dietno, Naunita and Advocate Siddharth Nath on the stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shratika, for that introduction. We're also glad to have the official radio partner of Purple Fest International over here, Radio Udaan. So, am I audible at the back, Danesh? Yes, thank you so much. We all know that laws are enablers, laws are facilitatory, but at times the laws can also tie our hands. We had a wonderful session earlier by Witty and TLMI, where we got to know the so many discriminatory laws are there. We have already provided the list of the state level laws which hinder the full participation of people affected by leprosy. However, what is the problem? The problem is, unfortunately, there is already, and not unfortunately, for the right reasons, there is already a case by Witty in the Supreme Court of India. But the problem is that has tied our hands of petitioners because the matter is now sub judice. And both CCPDs and SPDs, they often ask the undertaking that the matter shouldn't be sub judice. So that is why we need to understand the nuances of both the laws, your rights, what are the possible channels by which we can navigate these various barriers which prevent the effective and full participation of people affected by disability. So now for the first theme, which is about the non-implementation of decisions of CCPD and SCPDs. So very often we see that there are very positive recommendations by both CCPD and the state commissioners. But the next question is that once the order has been passed out, the case is disposed of, what next? Under Section 75 and 81B, both CCPD and SCPDs have the power to inquire, suo motu or otherwise, the cases against discriminations. But what next? So we have, for the first theme, three people over here who are the voices representing people with disabilities, voices representing state commissioners for persons with disabilities, and of course, the most important, the voices from the legal community. And so my first question is for Dr. Gangwani, who is a person with disability and also is a complainant in quite a few cases. And she is here to talk about her experiences. And my question to you is, ma'am, what do you think, how do we envision the role of these statutory bodies, both central CCPD as well as the state commissions for persons with disabilities? How do they empower people affected by disability? We need a mic, Ragini. Somebody has to hold the mic. Rahul,
So, Hello everyone. Hello everyone. So as we all know that various recommendations is the term which is now used whenever any SCPD or CCPD passes any judgment. So basically SCPD or CCPD as they stand for are the state commissioner or the chief commissioner. So whatever they say should be taken as an order. So there are certain, like as a complainant, I can say that there are certain strengths and there are certain weaknesses which are there. So the strengths are like whatever judgment or whatever recommendation, that is the term used these days, they give is generally a good one. Like in certain cases, like in case of Ola cab drivers. So recently again there was a case in Guwahati and in Delhi also where a parachuter was trying to book the Ola cab and the cab driver resisted to adjust the wheelchair in his cab. And this issue even I have to face daily because the cab drivers are always saying like the scratch and all might come into their car if they adjust the wheelchair. So the CCPDs and SCPDs all pass a good recommendation in this regard. So again, that is a good thing. So and another thing is that whenever a person clears NEET PG entrance or UG entrance, that medical professional has to undergo another medical examination at a medical facility for their disability certificate. For in this regard also, the CCPDs have implemented a judgment, you can say, that the number of centers should be increased and also in the medical board assessment to prevent harassment and to prevent the loss of dignity of that person. A person with disability or a doctor with disability should also be a part of medical board. So like these are certain trends which are there, that whatever they do and they always reply timely, that is a good thing. But again, there are certain weaknesses. So the weaknesses are like a common motto is there: nothing about us without us. This motto is followed by all the persons with disability. So, but now in the SCPD or CCPD, for a person to apply for the post, so if a person with disability wants to apply for the post of CCPD, that person has to resign from their government job to attain this post. Now we are talking about SCPD or CCPD. So again, this motto should be followed: nothing about us without us. So even at that higher post, again, it would be much better if a person with disability was handling that post again, so that that person will be able to understand the issues better. So the weakness here again lies in the point that they have to resign from their post. Then another weakness that is there is lack of time restraint. So it's like recently I also filed a complaint with the CCPD because like I am not eligible to apply for any post under UPSC because they do not permit both arm and both leg disability. So when I filed this complaint, although I got a reply from the CCPD, but the respondents which were actually supposed to reply didn't reply, and even after giving like repeated remedials, there is no response. So this is the weakness that we face. So some of the issues are still pending and the response rate is gradually declining. So that is a kind of weakness that we are facing. Then another weakness that a common person can face is the format in which they have to file the complaint. So not everyone is familiar with the format. So again, if their website or any person could help a layman also in this, then this weakness can also be overcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kamwani, for raising many of those questions, which are very pertinent because we saw how these very powerful statutory bodies are somehow, being their actions are being inhibited because of the logistical issues. And very rightly you mentioned about the format, because we have seen that different states have different formats. So there has to be a uniform format, because we already have UDID, isn't it? If we have a UDID, why we need a different ID? In one of the particular state from where I belong, originally, they ask another Parivar Pachahan Patra. How many IDs should I have? And why should I have different IDs when I have UDID? Want to take it on. Moving on to the second thing, one of the point which also Monica raised was that nothing about us without us. And when the RPD bill was under consideration, this was a vehement demand from the disability sector that the post of Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disability should be for a person with disability. However, despite our very strong advocacy, it was not there. But we do have one post of Deputy Commissioner, which shall be filled from people with disability. And having said that, of course, we have a few commissioners also who are persons with disabilities and heading the office of the Court of the State Commission for Persons with Disabilities. And we are very fortunate to have one amongst us from the Nagaland. So, Ms. Nekro, my question with you is that as an SCPD, we heard the voices of litigants with disabilities. You, in your capacity as the State Commissioner for Persons with Disability from a northeast state of Nagaland, what are the challenges which you normally face? And if some of the authority do not comply with, because we have seen this many times, the orders are not being responded to, what are the strategies which you have invoked? Can you share a few examples from your personal experiences for the benefit of this August gathering?
Thank you, Dr. Singh, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you to Dr. Singh and Arthur for organizing this panel discussion. I think it is a very relevant topic to be talking about when all of us are gathered here today. And thank you for including me in the panel. And I am in my second tenure as SCPD in Nagaland. And to be honest, for me, because ours yesterday also I have already mentioned that ours and most of the northeastern states, we are small states. We have completely different issues. Sometimes, our issues are very different from the rest of the country. The way we take up these issues, the way we deal with it is also completely different sometimes, So that is there. For me, as SCPD, to be honest, so far we have had good cooperation from the state government. We have been able to, take up cases and get compliance, proactive compliance also from various authorities in the state. But this is not to say that there is, there is no resistance. There is, of course, resistance, and of course, a lot of justifications, that various authorities bring up in order, with attempts to delay compliance or not to comply with the various, with the various issues that come up, with compliance to various provisions and so on. And as I said, so far I have been able to deal with all these such tactics firmly with the authority provided with the Act. But there are definitely enforcement challenges that need to be addressed. And, I think some issues have already been brought up and discussed yesterday also. And I think those are some common issues, challenges that are faced by all SCPDs. Number one is that, our orders, they go out as recommendations. Sometimes most, people take it as an optional kind of thing, whether you comply with it or not kind of thing. It's a recommendation. Our orders go out as recommendations. So, as I said, more often than not, the recommendations are regarded as optional. Then number two is in case of non-compliance. This is one issue, I think, one problem that we face in our state. If there is serious, non-compliance, what do we do next? The next step that we take, that is an issue. Right now, what I, as STPD, what I do is to push for compliance is to scare the authorities with the higher courts, that that they would be embroiled in the, if we take it to the higher courts, they will be embroiled in cases for months and for years. And this usually works. As of now, it's working currently. But what do we do when there is serious non-compliance? What is the next step that we take? That is not very clear. And that is one challenge that we have. And so I think there is a need, I feel that there is a need to establish a clear legal foundation with defining the scope and jurisdiction of the SCPD courts, and also there a uniform. This I think also has been discussed. It has already been brought up. A uniform procedure, mechanism that needs to be followed by all the SCPDs. I think this is something that it needs to be framed. Something like that, I think, would be very helpful to all SCPDs, because right now, as we have seen, all the states are following different systems, different mechanisms, different procedures. This is, I think, a uniform procedure, that needs to be framed for all the SCPDs. And I may be taking a little bit of time, but I would also just like to flag two other issues. One is resource constraints. I think this is also one problem that most SCPDs are facing, SCPD officers. The lack of funding and resources, it limits the ability of the SCPD function efficiently. So adequate resources need to be allocated, including staffing and infrastructure for many SCPD officers. I think this is a huge need. And the state governments are, of course, I think, of course, responsible for funding the SCPD officers. But here, I would also like to suggest that maybe some central funding to help the SCPD officers will be a good thing. Besides the funding that comes from the state governments. So allocation of adequate funds, I think this is something very necessary for the SCPDs to be able to function efficiently. Then this is also another point that has already been discussed: the appointment of independent commissioners. I think this is a very important point. There are, in many states, this is still not the case, and with many government officers holding additional charge. So, as with due respect and obviously no offense to anyone, I can say with certainty, with my experience as SCPD for the past few years, in carrying out my responsibilities as SCPD, it will be very difficult for an officer, under the state government to be able to carry out the responsibilities of the SCPD with neutrality and with the force that is needed in order to implement the various provisions that are there. So, appointment of, and besides that, the normal administrative functions that they have, the other responsibilities that they have, it makes it impossible for them to give the time that is needed to carry out the responsibilities of the SCPD. So I think the appointment of independent commissioners in all the states, I think this is something that needs to be strictly enforced.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nakro, for raising that point, because what we need is definitely the logistical support as well as the legal support. Life is not a story of Cinderella where you use a magic wand and things will change suddenly. But unfortunately, what we need is life is a legal danda, right? So that things get into perspective. So we heard about the issues which Dr. Gangwani flagged as a complainant, which we often faces, and then we heard the perspective of the government, and that's why I think one of the question which Dr. Nonita raised, that why somebody, a government officer with a disability, has to resign from his post to take up these statutory bodies, is perhaps the second point of thought is that possibly so that they have an independent control. On the contrary, this was discussed yesterday also when the State Commissioner discussed that this is Achilles' heel. Because how can you issue summons against your parent cadre? It is next to impossible. We are living in a real world. It's not how that happens. Not everybody is late President Kumar Pinchar, who was the first disabled commissioner, who never used the word recommendation and they were explicit orders. So we need to know how these explicit orders from the Chief Central CCPD over the period of time have become quote-unquote recommendatory in nature. For that to know, we need to know the legal understanding. And if you look at the previous minutes of the meetings of the review of all the state commissioners of persons with disabilities, these are in public domain. Or if you look at the Supreme Court case of Seema Girjalal versus others, or if you look at the minutes of the meetings of the Central Advisory Board on Disability, you will see that these are the things which are coming again and again and again. Some of the state commissioners, from a disability perspective, very heartening to tell they impose penalty and fine. We have some very good examples among us over here. Some are a little bit skeptical, is it legal or not? So let's see what is the legal provisions when we have Advocate Siddharth Nath with us, who will tell what are the enabling provisions and inhibitory provisions within the law. Sir, what is the scope of the law?
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Thank you to the organizers of this conference and to iPro Bono. I am very heartened to see the scale at which the conference is happening and the number of concerned individuals, and that gives me hope that we can actually get some concrete steps out of this. So in response to the question, I'll just briefly describe what the Act is. In 2016, the RPWD Act came. Of course, the primary thrust of the Act is to secure various rights for persons with disability. Starting from equality and non-discrimination, access to justice, access to voting. I won't get into all of them. There are several rights. Now in law, a very fundamental principle is called ubi just ibi remedium, which means where there is a right, there is a remedy. And without the remedy, the right is pointless. So where all of these rights have been secured, if the rights are being breached, where does one go? And that is where we come to the office of the SCPD and CCPD. Just for ease of speaking, I'm going to refer to the CCPDs. There are similar provisions for SCPDs in almost all cases. So I think one of the key provisions of this Act is Section 75 and similar provision for the SCPDs, where 75(1)(b), I'll just read it out very quickly. The Chief Commissioner shall inquire, suo motu or otherwise, deprivation of rights of persons with disabilities and safeguards available to them in respect of matters for which the central government is the appropriate government, and take up the matter with appropriate authorities for corrective action. I'll translate this essentially. Wherever a right is being breached, the Commissioner, the Office of the CCPD and SCPD has been given the authority to take corrective action. The problem comes from the next provision, which says that whenever the Chief Commissioner makes a recommendation to an authority, that authority shall take necessary action on it and inform the Chief Commissioner of the action taken within 3 months from the date of receipt of the recommendation. All good so far. Provided that where an authority does not accept the recommendation, it shall convey reasons for non-acceptance to the Chief Commissioner within a period of 3 months and shall also inform the aggrieved person. So this is really where the problem comes in. We are referring to the fact that the word recommendation is used. Unfortunately, that is now there in the Act. So either this Act is amended or it is struck down. Those are, of course, larger questions. But while this Act stands the way it is, these orders really are recommendations. Now, we're trying to find ways how we can still make them a meaningful exercise, where it shouldn't just be, as Ms. Nakro was saying, they shouldn't be optional. Right? So there are a couple of thoughts over there. One aspect is that in Section 76, when I mentioned, if you are not complying with the so-called recommendation of the office, you have to provide a report as to why. Now, my understanding is, and I think we have so many CCPDs and SCPDs and they can tell us better, but my understanding is that almost in all cases, even the report doesn't come. Right? Now, that is of course, a problem because we're not aware why you're not complying. But there's another issue over here because Section 93 provides for a criminal offense for failure to furnish information. So just to be clear, there's a distinction over here. It is not an offense to not comply with the CCPD's order. But it is an offense to not submit the report providing why you are not. So that is, if we can actually start filing complaints. If the aggrieved person or the CCPD, whoever is aware of it, can start filing complaints. This is a criminal offence I'm talking about. It will be a full-blown trial in some sessions court or magistrates court. That would certainly be a deterrent. Right? At the very least, people might start filing reports. And once they start filing reports and they actually start putting it down, they may actually ask themselves that, do we really need to not comply, or can we actually do this? Right? That is one possible solution that we're thinking of.
Can I have a small intervention over here?
Please.
Very good morning to all of you. I am Praveen Prakash Ambas, Deputy Chief Commissioner Disabilities in the Office of the Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities. I just wanted to, put things in perspective. This small interjection. I don't agree with my 9 months of tenure as Deputy Chief Commissioner and previously 3 years as desk officer that the most of the orders are not being complied. I would not accept that, because my experience has been that almost 70 to 80% recommendations are being accepted even by private establishment. And my friends from the state may comment on this. So far as Section 93 is concerned, my second letter every time, whenever there is no response, the second letter every time mentions Section 93, and we are getting responses, not from only government sector, but also private sector. Okay. Again, another point. So we are absolutely aware of the criminal, nature of Section 93, and we mention in the order also, the last para always invariably mention that if you do not submit a report, that means the failure to furnish information, and is an offence, punishable offence under the RPWD Act. So just I wanted to put these few things, and even as you were discussing, I don't want to give you the details, but there is a case which has just come in the morning where a person with disability has written a very emotional letter to the Chief Minister saying that he feels like committing suicide today. So we are sending a team from our office today itself to that institution. I just signed the order, sent to my desk office. Okay, it is not that, I spoke to my boss, he's in the next room, spoke to my boss, issued the commission, and 3-member team is going for a surprise inspection in the office of that particular establishment. So what I'm trying to say that let us not make a perception that the Chief Commissioner and the State Commissioners are toothless tigers. No, we are not. We are aware about our powers. We have powers of civil court under Section 77. We have powers, of course, we cannot send somebody to jail, but definitely we can impose fines. Now, it is to be decided in which case will we go for a fine. Okay, just in the previous session, our Commissioner, Chief Commissioner informed you that few officers will send for seva for 5 days. They could have very well challenged this order, but all of them went for a seva for 5 days, starting from 26th December. 30th, they completed their seva. Okay, they could have challenged our order. India Mart, a private e-commerce venture, had an order from the Chief Commissioner where we asked them not to sell, hearing aids through the website, because the hearing aids can actually cause damage to person with disability if they are not compatible to the needs of the person. Okay, and they challenged our orders both on merit as well as on technical ground. The High Court did not accept. The order was issued from our CCPD office on 12th December. On 16th, they filed the matter in the High Court. The Honorable High Court did not agree with India Mart. Just only thing what they improvised the order, that we had given order to the India Mart. They said you do it through a government ministry. So that is the only improvement that the Honorable High Court of Delhi has made in the order. Other parts where the challenge was that we cannot issue stay order. We had issued an injunction also, whereas there is no such power in the Act. Okay, so not only we are trying to implement in letter the Act of RPWD, but also in the spirit. Okay, so that injunction also the Honorable Court did not lift, right? That a person who is not an aggrieved person cannot file a complaint was also a matter raised in this particular case. The Honorable High Court did not accept that argument also. I just wanted to put these things in perspective so that we do not waste much time on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for raising that point, sir. Guru, I'll take a question, but let's finish Siddharth first of all.
So just to clarify, nothing that I am saying or nothing that any of us are saying is trying to attach any blame to. I think the SCPDs and CCPDs are doing fantastic work. Done multiple matters in the High Court and the Supreme Court which have come from those offices, and all points I can see that those officers are doing whatever they can. They do have powers. So none of this is really to attach any blame to anybody. The only purpose of this exercise is if we can spread awareness, if we can learn from each other. The gentleman over here is of course very well informed, but everybody else in the audience may not. So for their benefit, I'll just mention one more provision which I think is very important, which is the powers of a chief commissioner, where they have the powers of a civil court for the purposes of summoning and enforcing witnesses, requiring the discovery of documents, etc. Now, I won't go into all of this. The reason I think this is important is if there is an order that is passed and somebody intends to, let's say, not comply. I hope all cases go the way Sir was mentioning, but very often I've also seen that people don't comply. In that case, while the order itself is a recommendation, as I said, I think it is reasonable to say that the CCPD wants evidence to the effect why you are not compliant. And for that, you have binding powers. So the final order itself is not binding, but there are binding powers to summon witnesses to ask them to depose on affidavit. And this I can tell you in my experience that when somebody has to put down something on affidavit, they think 10 times. Right? And that is, so this provision can actually be used before the final order is, or the final recommendation is passed. And maybe we don't even need to go to the stage of the recommendation. Maybe in the evidence itself, the errant authority may actually come and start complying. So these are some of the provisions where the Act certainly does provide for powers to the CCPD and SPD. I think a couple of issues that I have personally seen because I have done a few of these cases for persons with disabilities, and very often these cases go on for some time. Trust me, I go to court, so I'm aware that 3 months, 4 month adjournment is not a very big deal. But if the matter goes on for 3 years, 4 years, frankly, the matter is over. Whether you get a positive recommendation or negative recommendation, the fact that the aggrieved person has had to fight for this for 4 years, I think, shows that the system is failing. So possibly we can try to get some sort of a time frame within which these orders need to be passed. There's another provision which is, I won't go into detail, but there is the provision for a special court. Now, I want to just clearly distinguish what a special court is and what a CCPD. CCPD is the office whose job it is to implement all of these rights. The special court is really a magistrate's or a sessions court set up to hear trial, which is criminal offences. So there are various offences prescribed under the Act, one of which I had mentioned earlier. Those offences should really be going to the special court. I believe in some states, my understanding is that special courts haven't even been set up yet. That is another issue to really address. But the Act does provide for these special courts. And I think this is, broadly speaking, another aspect is the annual reports, where the CCPD is required to furnish an annual report to the central government, which is then supposed to be tabled before Parliament. This annual report ought to contain all the reasons that they have been given for non-compliance. In an ideal world, when Parliament is cognizant of this issue, they really ought to act on it. I think the biggest thing that can come from this, the Parliament can do is change the word recommendation to order. But of course, that's a much larger question. As and when Parliament does it, wonderful. But until then, I think I don't have the statistics with me. Maybe Dr. Singh or Karuma Shudhika have it. But I believe that the compliance in, I think, the Delhi office of the reports being filed was down to 2%. Right? So that is obviously a problem. And if we don't even know why, what the reasons are for non-compliance, it's of course very hard for us to then take it one step further and actually address it. So one issue which I wanted everyone to, and I think we have CCPDs and SCPDs here, is would it be helpful if we have some sort of a consistent format within which people have to then, the non-compliant authority just has a form that they have to fill out that this is why we are not compliant. And if that format is then easily accessible across categories, and that can then form a part of the annual report. What I'm trying to understand, and this is not something where I have an answer, I'm looking for answers, is how can we make the reporting framework a little bit stronger based on everyone's practical experience, and that may actually be one further step towards strengthening this framework. I think I can end with that. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so much, Rohit Nath, for that. I think, as you very rightly mentioned, that when somebody has to give something on affidavit, they think twice, and I think for that we need to give credit to also the court of CCPD, because they always mention very explicitly in the very first notice which goes that you need to put it upon affidavit. And many times it has repercussions also on the complainants, because I have filed multiple cases with CCPD in 3 and 4 states as well. I've also got legal notices from some very big shots, because there was a session on media accessibility. I had filed a complaint against Lal Singh Chaddha and one more film which was there for using delegated remarks, and I actually got a legal notice from them threatening that I have, then let's leave it aside. So, but my point is that, of course, and thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador, for sharing that very important perspective. And I think Rahul wants to have a comment. So maybe
just on one small aspect, my friend Nath mentioned about the power under Section 93, the failure to furnish information, and it being one of the things where the matter can be referred to a special court. I would beg to differ on that point, in the sense that, as we discussed yesterday in the session with Justice Lalit also, as far as the mere imposition of fines is concerned, there is no bar on the CCPD or STPDs imposing fines, neither in Section 89 nor in Section 93. So nowhere does Section 93 say that it is only a special court which is empowered to impose a fine in case of a failure to furnish information. Yes, when it comes to imposition of imprisonment under 91, 92, I would agree that those powers are only to be exercised by special courts, but not the power to merely impose a fine. The second thing I would say on this very quickly is that one trend that we see sometimes, if there is non-compliance, is that the matter is referred to a special court for it to take it up, which may not be the methodology envisaged by the statute, but we can get into that later on, but just wanted to clarify this one aspect.
Sure, thank you so much, Rahul. And also, I think the audience here should know that, of course, very clearly, the Section 76 states that if there is a non-compliance, the authority against which the case is there, they need to inform in writing for the reason for non-compliance, not only to the CCPD or SCPD, but also to the aggrieved party.
Sir, just to supplement what Advocate Nath was saying, in fact, providing for this, giving reasons for non-compliance, actually a kind of a hint has been given to the respondent. You can very well non-comply, with the provision, which definitely should be looked into again. And about the special court, most of the states now have special courts, but about their actual operation or putting them in function, we need to discuss how these special courts will have to be activated. Because from CCPD we have referred 2 cases, one to Delhi Special Court, another to Andhra Pradesh Special Court. We have not seen any action. It has been how many? 5 months for Delhi and 6 months for the Andhra.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Because the next session is about the special courts, so we will dwell more into that.
Just one thing. Just one thing I wanted to add on this, which I think is actually important. The reasons for non-compliance have to be given for orders passed under 75(1)(b) and the similar equivalent provision for the CC.
81 also.
Exactly, the other similar provision for SCP.
States.
Now the point I'm trying to make here is that if this is filed, and I think the first defense that will come up is that this order that was passed was not passed under 75(1)(b), it was passed under, let's say, 75(1)(a) or 75(1)(c). That is something, it's a possible defense that could be taken by the person who was facing criminal sanction. So what might be helpful, and I'm sure many SCPDs and CCPDs are already doing this, but what might be helpful is that if order or the recommendation that is passed specifically outlines that it is being passed under 75(1)(b), then that defense is no longer available to that person, right? Because it's just, I wanted to clarify, because this reasons for non-compliance isn't there for all provisions under 75 or under 81. It is only there for subclause B. So this could be identified in the recommendation itself, and that would make the complaint that much stronger. Whether it goes to a special court or to a magistrate, that's a separate matter.
Thank you, Advocate Nath. We move on to question and answers, because it is very important to hear the perspective of the audience also, which is a mixed audience over here. We are quite fortunate to have that. And the first one, Guru, at the last page of waiting green t-shirt. You raise your hand first, so if others have a query, please raise your hands and I would be able to. Okay, fine.
Yes. Hello. Yeah. I'm Guru Prasad. I'm the co-founder of Swarga Foundation, trustee of Talium India, president of Parkinson's, Coimbatore Parkinson's Foundation. Now, I have a question to the commissioners, state commissioners. When we give a complaint, especially about a harassment to a disabled person, we don't see even a courtesy reply from the state commissioners or the central commissioner. How is this getting strengthened? Because it was a harassment of eviction for a therapeutic pet, possessing a therapeutic pet. And finally, we had to go to the police commissioner and seek support from functioning NGOs. And then this was the first case in Tamil Nadu. Again, with Disability Acts, we have filed a charge sheet against the society. But my question is, why is there no at least a courtesy reply from the state commissioner or the central commissioners that yes, we understand your problem, we have directed so and so.
Sir, kindly give me complaint date, details, I'll tell you right away. Here itself.
Thank you so much. That's very heartening to see the action from the CCPD over here. Deputy CCPD. Yes, sir, please go ahead.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन है
हाँ जी किसी स्पेसिफिक पैनलिस्ट से आपका या जनरल क्वेश्चन है
जनरल सर
आप स्टेट बताएंगे सर
91 92 93
जी जी प्लीज
स्टेट कमिश्नर दो टाइप के हैं एक तो नॉमिनेटिव है और एक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव से आए हैं जो आईएएस ऑफिसर हैं कहीं कहीं जगह अलग अलग स्टेट कानून हुए महाराष्ट्र के हद तक बोलना है कि जितने ग्रीवेंसेस के लिए जितने अपील्स आए हैं स्टेट कमिश्नर के पास उसमें पनिशमेंट का कहीं भी आज तक एक भी ऑर्डर हुआ बहुत सारे ऑर्डर्स हुए हैं रिकमेंडेशंस जाते हैं जैसे हाउसिंग के लिए है जैसे राइट्स बेस्ड जो अप्रोच है उसके लिए डिस्क्रिमिनेशन
आपकी सर स्टेट कौन सी है महाराष्ट्र स्टेट
हमारे कमिश्नर सर है वो अभी आए हैं 1 महीना हो गया उनको इज वेरी एक्टिव
हमारे यहाँ नहीं है सर
लेकिन ये कह रहा हूँ मेरा पीछे का 10-15-20 साल का मेरा एक्सपीरियंस जब वो ये है कि कॉन्क्रीट डिसीजन पनिशमेंट जो प्रोविजन ऑलरेडी कर चुके हैं जैसे पहले 95 का एक्ट चैरिटेबल एक्ट था लेकिन ये तो अभी स्पष्ट है कि यहाँ पे प्रोविजन है
यस सर हमने आपका क्वेश्चन ले लिया अगला क्वेश्चन वो आगे ब्लू शर्ट में हाँ जी
नमस्कार सर मैं गौतम अग्रवाल जनरल सेक्रेटरी NFB कर्नाटका तो मेरे 2-3 छोटे छोटे क्वेश्चन हैं एक तो सबसे पहले मैं ये जानना चाहूंगा सर कि जैसे जो RPD एक्ट है इसके जो अभी भी बहुत सारे प्रोविजन ऐसे हैं जो स्टेट्स में भी और कुछ प्रोविजन सेंटर में भी अभी तक इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं हुए जैसे सेक्शन 7 को ले लीजिए सेक्शन 8 को ले लीजिए सेक्शन 35 को ले लीजिए सेक्शन 18 से लेके सेक्शन 31 तक के जो मोस्ट ऑफ द प्रोविजंस हैं वो
जी सर वही मैटर था सीमा गिरजा लाल वाले में भी लेकिन अगर आप SCPD और CCPD पे स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे
तो वो अभी तक इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं हुए हैं जैसे जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो फ्रेमवर्क की बात है जो जैसे जो ये स्टेट डिसेबिलिटी फंड का होना चाहिए जो स्टेट एडवाइजरी बोर्ड है इवन कई स्टेट्स में रूल्स भी अभी तक फ्रेम नहीं हुए हैं तो इसमें जो स्टेट कमिश्नर्स हैं उनका क्या इन सब चीजों को एडजस्ट करने के लिए जो नॉन इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ द एक्ट है उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए स्टेट कमिश्नर्स कितने इन्फ्लुएंसर हो सकते हैं उनका क्या रोल
थैंक यू गौतम जी लेकिन जैसे आपने खुद ही कहा कि अगर स्टेट्स ने रूल्स ही नहीं बनाए हैं तो वो RPD एक्ट इम्प्लीमेंट कहाँ से करेंगे व्हिच इज वेरी अनफॉर्चुनेट
वो ठीक है
देयर आर मेनी स्टेट्स व्हिच आर
लेकिन कुछ स्टेट्स में जैसे रूल बन भी गए हैं तो और रूल बनाने में भी स्टेट कमिश्नर का कोई रोल उनको डायरेक्ट करने के लिए स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को डायरेक्ट करने के लिए
थैंक यू गौतम जी आई थिंक दानिश आल्सो हैज अ क्वेश्चन सो
एक 10 मिनट जी सर एक क्वेश्चन और है पर्टिकुलरली मैं 2-3 जो प्रोविजंस है उनकी बात करना चाहूंगा जैसे सेक्शन 35 है जिसमें जो प्राइवेट एम्प्लॉयर्स हैं उनको कुछ जो डिसेबल्ड को जो प्लेसमेंट देते हैं उनको कुछ इंसेंटिव देने की बात कही गई है जो कि पहले एक्ट में भी थी और अभी इस एक्ट में भी है तो लेकिन ये मेरी जानकारी के अनुसार कहीं भी ना तो सेंटर पे और ना ही कोई भी स्टेट में अभी तक इम्प्लीमेंट हुआ है तो इसके बारे में क्या स्टेट कमिश्नर या चीफ कमिश्नर की ओर से कोई एक्शन इनिशिएट हो सकता है
Any state commissioner who would like to respond to this? Also, Mr. Makkar, yeah, because we have seen some very orders from your office, sir. We have Honorable Haryana.
I want to make you correct. सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट जो है ईपीएफ की लायबिलिटी ओन करती है. प्राइवेट एम्प्लॉयर अगर कोई जॉब देगा तो उसका जो प्रोविडेंट फंड की लायबिलिटी है जो एम्प्लॉय शेयर है दैट शेल 100% बी reimbursed by the central government. One thing. So far as state of Haryana is concerned, we have made various contacts with the private entrepreneurs. उसमें कई अच्छी कंपनियां भी मल्टीनेशनल कंपनियों के साथ भी हमने इन दिनों में किया है. 15,000 persons with disabilities have been hired by the private company from Haryana. Person with disabilities. Recently within a period of 1 year. उसमें हमने इंसेंटिव दिया है उनको, जीएसटी में छूट दिया है. So section 35 has been implemented. So Haryana is.
इसमें हरियाणा में
हरियाणा
जो एम्प्लॉय जो प्राइवेट जो
ये डिफरेंट स्टेट का ना डिफरेंट गवर्नमेंट है. वी आर अ डेमोक्रेसी.
ठीक है वो
So there cannot be a uniform rule.
Thank you so much.
As per the economic condition of the state, is very clear.
For next question, thank you, Makar sir. For next question, we move on to Mr. Mahajan. Before that, Maharashtra Commissioner, yes sir.
अभी कानेकर साहब ने जो बोला है ये बात बिल्कुल सही है कि most of the times we recommend as Advocate Siddharth has told us.
Yes sir.
We recommend it, but sometimes it really works when we give a timeline to it. So I recently have given some orders, and I am happy to say that within some time frame I have given to the organization.
Yes sir.
They have obeyed the recommendation, not order, but they have obeyed, and the problems have been solved for the person.
Sure. Okay.
But the thing remains, I always insist that as per the act, we are recommending, because actually I have joined recently, but I have
Yes sir. The act
lawyers
mentions
in my office.
clearly. Yes.
They have already told me that we have passed such orders before, and High Court has banned them. Just I have to check that out.
That's true, sir. So can we have the next question from Danish? Sure. Be brief, Danish.
Yeah, sure.
As usual, as you are with Radio Udaan.
जी. तो मेरा नाम दानिश महाजन है, मैं फाउंडर हूँ रेडियो उड़ान का. सर एक लाइन के 2 सवाल है मेरे.
जरूर.
डिसेबिलिटी कमिश्नर कई स्टेट्स में बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन मैं पंजाब से आता हूँ सर. मेरा सवाल ये है कि डिसेबिलिटी कमिश्नर काम तब करेंगे जब लोग उनके पास पहुंचेंगे. बहुत सारी स्टेट्स में तो ना तो डेडिकेटेड ईमेल आईडी है और ना ही उनका कोई डेडिकेटेड पोर्टल है जहाँ पे लोग
पंजाब में अपॉइंट ही नहीं हुए अभी.
पंजाब में अपॉइंट नहीं हुए हैं.
एडिशनल चार्ज.
So that's
एप्लीकेशन इनवाइट करना.
एक और सवाल. हाँ जी. वो ला रहे हैं माइक यूज कर रहे हैं. हाँ जी.
पंजाब में कभी था
या क्या था माइक है. हाँ
जी. तो मेरा सवाल ये था कि बहुत सारी स्टेट्स में डेडिकेटेड ईमेल आईडीज या डिसेबिलिटी कमिश्नर के डेडिकेटेड पोर्टल नहीं है, तो लोग रीच आउट ही नहीं करते. अभी भी जब मैं आपके बात कर रहा हूँ, मेरे पास सुबह की 4 कॉल्स आ गई हैं कि सर हम कैसे किनको कांटेक्ट करना है. अगर एक शख्स की ईमेल आईडी होती भी है वो चेंज हो जाते हैं और वो अपडेटेड नहीं होती. और कई जगह पे तो लैंडलाइन नंबर वो 40 साल पुराने हैं. तो एक्सेस तो जब डिसेबिलिटी कमिश्नर ही एक्सेसिबल नहीं है तो आई वंडर की क्या जस्टिस मिलेगा. सॉरी फॉर माय हार्ड लैंग्वेज. और क्या सीसीपीडी इस रिगार्ड में सबको नोटिफाई कर सकती है कि या सेंटर से कुछ सबके पास एक डेडिकेटेड डिसेबिलिटी पोर्टल हो जहां पे जैसे सीसीपीडी ईमेल पे भी कंप्लेन एक्सेप्ट करता है तो बाकी स्टेट कमिश्नर भी एक्सेप्ट करें, और चाहे जिसको चार्ज मिले तो उनकी आईडी इमीडिएटली वहां पर अपडेटेड होनी चाहिए.
दानिश जी आपने बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट सवाल उठाया
सर एक लाइन का छोटा सा और सवाल है.
अच्छा.
कि जो दूसरा यही है कि जो इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी कंपनीज को स्टेट में रजिस्टर करनी होती है, इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी पॉलिसी, तो डिसेबिलिटी कमिश्नर्स द्वारा वो डिफाइन नहीं है कि कैसे करनी है, प्रोसेस क्या है, तो उसके बारे में थोड़ा बताएं. थैंक यू.
श्योर. तो इस बारे में हमने कल चर्चा की थी इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी पॉलिसी में. एक्चुअली जो स्टेट रूल्स हैं उसमें इसका प्रोविजन दिया हुआ है. सिर्फ कुछ स्टेट्स हैं जैसे दिल्ली स्टेट है और जम्मू कश्मीर है जिन्होंने सेंट्रल रूल्स को मॉडिफाई करके अपने जो स्टेट रूल्स बनाए हैं उसमें क्लियर कट उन्होंने दिया हुआ है कि आफ्टर द पब्लिकेशन ऑफ दिस इन ऑफिशियल गैजेट 3 months में नहीं हुआ, सो यू कैन स्टार्ट फाइलिंग केसेस एंड एक्शंस विद दैट. तो दूसरा जो सवाल आपका था डेडिकेटेड एड्रेसेस वगैरह नहीं होते, सही बात है, क्योंकि हमारे पास भी सिर्फ सीसीपीडी की वेबसाइट पर एक लिस्ट थी या सारे कमिश्नर्स के नाम की, और उनमें से आधे नाम जो थे पहले रिटायर हो चुके थे. बट अगेन सीसीपीडी हैज मेड इट्स न्यू वेबसाइट जिसमें वो सारे ऑर्डर्स वगैरह भी डाल रहे हैं. But of course, this has the state needs to take this on us that there has to be clarity what is there. Madam at the back, yes ma'am.
Yeah, my name is.
Just for a moment, Danish, Praveen here, Danish, Deputy Chief Commissioner Disabilities. We have been discussing with our chief, that is the Secretary, EPWD. We recently launched a portal. I think you are aware of that. ccpdcode.gov.in. So there is a thought going on that let us have a common. In fact, yesterday the MP, State Commissioner, myself, and the Secretary, we sat together till quite late, and we were discussing how we can export that for being used by the state commissioners as well. So the complainant will have to file only one complaint to one portal. The portal will decide which complaint should go to state commissioner or to be retained at the chief commissioner level. So, but that is only in the pipeline. I am sharing with you that this is already we are trying to do. Secondly, if you are not able to reach out to the state commissioner, please feel free to file it to us at ccpd.nic.in. Regularly, we are forwarding 20 to 30 complaints every day to the state commissioners. So even if they are not accessible, yesterday there was a request which has gone from this dais that all state commissioners should have their own dedicated website, which should also be accessible to all persons with disabilities, right? And the list has also been updated about the EOP format which was being talked about. Let me inform to you and to everybody that Delhi State Commissioner has a format which he circulated in the group of state commissioners yesterday. CCPD also has a format which we also have circulated. So Haryana has it. So if anybody needs any help in that regard also, please feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The last question, madam. What's your question?
Yeah, my name is Sushma Nagarkar. I'm from Yash Charitable Trust. We're based in Mumbai. And I think my question is to Mr. Deshmukh or the Office of the Central Commission. The rules have not been notified in Maharashtra yet. And it's been 8 years since the act has been passed. Why the delay? A, and B is we do a lot of advocacy work. So we work with families to inform them what their rights. What should we be conveying to families in this situation?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sir, one of the largest state in the country. What would you like to say?
And many people with disabilities.
Thank you, ma'am.
I am Praveen Puri from Maharashtra. I have just recently joined, but I know that the rules have been notified and the suggestions, objections have been heard. And a draft has been sent to the state government level from SCPD office, and we just are hoping that sooner it will be done at the state government.
So thank you so much. Now we move on to the second theme, which is also important, on special code.
Dr. Singh,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
one small thing. With regard to the SCPDs and all, everybody's sounding like it's all very hunky-dory, that everything is being done and it's such an ideal world that all our recommendations are being complied with. I think we should be a little more practical and recognize that we do have challenges in, getting our recommendations complied with also many a times. I think we will all agree that we face these challenges, And I've told you all about my experience as SCPD in my state. So far, we are, the government is also very cooperative. We are getting, the work done quite smoothly as of now. But that does not mean that there is no resistance. And I know that many of my colleagues also face these kinds of problems. So instead of being very defensive, I think about these issues, we should talk about it openly so that we can, smoothen out the kinks that are there also in the process, find out the best way that we can operate and function. Yeah, I think that is, that's the, this discussion. I think that if we can do that, that would be the,
And with that right spirit, we move on to the second thing, which is equally important, which is about establishment and working of special courts to strengthen decisions of CCPDs and SCPDs. And for that, we invite Smita Sadasivan, Bhakti Gachole, and the Delhi State Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities, And to moderate that, we have another lawyer, our very own Advocate Rahul Bajaj, to do the honors. So we are taking a couple of seconds so that people can come to the stage. And this panel will be followed by Q&A. So of course, keep your questions ready after hearing the panel. And of course, we have our Honorable Deputy CCPD with us, Sambasta sir. So we always need your inputs in between, sir. So that's it. Sir, वो edge पर है sir.
अंजन सर, थोड़ा सा अपना चेयर एडजस्ट करें.
Yes. And mic is okay. Record it. What do you want? So over to you, Advocate Bajaj.
Thank you very much, Dr. Singh. It was a very informative session, and it was very good to see that the approach from all stakeholders was constructive and not defensive, and that we were able to discuss a number of concrete solutions to kind of handhold citizens into filing complaints and taking them to their logical conclusion. Bhakti, Smita, and Mr. Mukherjee have already been introduced in the morning by Dr. Singh in the afternoon, so I'm not going to repeat that exercise. And we will be discussing the functioning of special courts, which is linked with what we've already discussed. I think what it would be helpful to do at the outset is just to sort of underscore what my colleague at the bar, Mr. Nance, kind of pointed out a short while ago about the distinction between commissioners and courts. Because there is perhaps this feeling that I got that if there is non-compliance with the orders of the commissioners, then the approach to deal with that issue might be reference to the special courts, which in my respectful reading is not the case really, because that would be kind of adding an additional layer of complexity to the issue. The power and function of the special courts are to deal with offences that are committed under the Act, which is under 91-92. So if I am fraudulently claiming to be a disabled person when I am not, or if someone is mocking me for my disability, or stealing my assistive devices and so forth, that is where the special courts come in. So I just wanted to kind of underscore that as a ground rule, which I hope we are all agreed on in the interest of having a focused discussion on the issue. So what I would really like to hear, and Smita, we can start with you, is your view as an activist in the space on what your aspirations are from the disability commissioners and special courts, and what process improvements you think are needed to get there.
Thanks, Rahul. So before going into the question, I would also like to continue with one point with what Dean Akro, Dayatono Nakro was talking about the non-compliance, whereas we should it should not be just looked at as non-compliance, but to look at with in depth. Because I would like to give an example. Back in Tamil Nadu, I filed a petition with the State Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities on the the health department not providing the disability certificate for persons with multiple sclerosis, and asking for appointment of a neurologist at the medical board of the assessment board, where the commissioner also provided a direction to the health department, but the health department did not comply for a long time. And I have been following up with the Disability Commissioner's Office, with the Health Department, and then the Disability Commissioner Office again sent a direction, and they did not, get back. And from the Disability Commissioner's office, a senior medical officer went in person to the hospital, to the GH, and was waiting for a long time to meet even the dean of the hospital. And then the same thing happened with to meet with the HOD of the neurology department. So she was not, treated with dignity. So why is such a, it's kind of a harassment or kind of an exploitation on the disability department itself? There is a lot of issues going on under the carpet, like how can a junior officer who's the disability commissioner, send me a direction or summon me? These kind of aspects are also there. So we need to look at these non-compliance with do a lot of in-depth analysis is what I would really suggest. And yeah, with regard to Rahul's question, we definitely need the special courts to take up this matter. Whereas in Tamil Nadu, one of the first state to notify the special courts, every sessions court is a special court, is announced as a special court. Whereas the special court authorities themselves don't know about the they are not sensitized about the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act, and they don't know how to take up the cases, and people don't know that they can go to the special court for their charges. And wherever the serious crimes are also happening, like the prison imprisonment and inaccessibility of prisoners with disability, or any faulty crime offences, these are also not being taken up by the session court. And so again and again we are coming to that one point: sensitization. Why sensitization, and what really is sensitization? It is not just telling them about the disability law. It is also to make them understand the context of the rights. What is accessibility? Why should it be accessibility? It is not just like people with disabilities need accessibility, but everybody needs accessibility. If there is a higher raised platform, and if there are no steps, then people without disabilities also cannot go up. So there is a difference. It is not somebody can do and somebody cannot do. If there is no access, nobody can do that. And similarly, support is available, is required for everyone and not just for persons with disabilities. We have so much of support system in the community, like the local markets or the police station, and everybody are using it. And when it is coming for people with disabilities, we need an extra support of making it accessible or coming up with some specific provisions. So this kind of understanding based on the context of CRPD, the objectives of CRPD, that needs to go into the sensitization programs of all the courts, especially the special courts. And there should be awareness program for people with disabilities and the larger community on we can approach special courts on these criminal cases or on any non-compliances of the CCPD orders. And another few other mechanisms that I thought of are like the CCPD office should coordinate or collaborate and create a rapport with the special courts, and also the State Legal Services Authority or the legal aid cells under the State Legal Services Authority on these on the aspects of rights of persons with disabilities, and also on the compliance and non-compliance. And accessibility of every session court need to be there, again in the context of the proper understanding on accessibility. And today morning we saw that there was a point on coming up with a dedicated monitoring unit within the CCPD cell, CCPD's office. That is a must. And this unit, what they should also do is to review the implementation of the orders passed. And implementation is not just coming up with some report, but proper effective implementation. And wherever there is a non-compliance, that needs to be taken to the special court, and within what time period. So within 2 months of time, if it can be taken up by the special courts. So these kind of things we need to do, and when we are looking at these things, we also should go into the look into the analysis of Legal Services Authority Act and the Human Rights Act and the Human Rights Commission, how they are dealing with these aspects, and especially with persons with disabilities, and then we can come up with a effective structure. And last but not the least, the budget, how these commissions, the legal services authorities, are having a budget for their day-to-day operations. So we need to have a proper budget on these kinds of on a holistic approach, like whether it is awareness to people, whether it is sensitization and periodic sensitization, and creating rapport with the special courts or the legal services authority, and how to towards effective implementation. So budget plays a very major role. So we need to look at all these aspects holistically. Thank you very much.
So 3 or 4 important words are sensitization, budgeting, process improvements in terms of streamlining it to make it more effective. These are the 3 kind of main takeaways that I get from this. With respect to the Tamil Nadu example, if we could catalogue those cases where special courts matters were referred but have not been taken up, and consider writing a letter to the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court on the issue, and I'm happy to take it up. I think that would be an important step in the right direction, because that is what will provide us real benefits or true solace in the matter. Then I'll move on to Bhakti. Bhakti and I have known each other since we were in college, so it's very good to share the dais with her again. So, could you share a little bit kind of about what your experience has been, if at all, of using disability courts and commissions in dealing with various infractions of rights of persons with disabilities that take place, and what the 3 or 4 areas for intervention are that you think such bodies should undertake?
Hello.
Yes, you can be.
Yeah. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rahul, for the question. Yeah. So, in my experience, I would like to quote some of the research experience when I interacted with my participants during my studies. And first story which I wanted to share of one of the participants is that what's similar to what Smita shared is like the participant was a person with cerebral palsy, and they faced almost 18 years. They struggled 18 years to get the disability certificate, and they had to go through hospitals, and the doctors were repetitively diagnosing them with multiple illnesses, failing to recognize their disability. And thankfully, after the RPDA Act, it was recognized as cerebral palsy. The second story which I wanted to share about the participant is she was a woman with disability, a 50-year-old woman, and she was a person with wheelchair user. And she told us that since 50 years she has not been able to visit a gynecologist because of inaccessibility of the examination tables which are available in the hospitals. And last story which I wanted to share, that one of the participants' mother withdrew her participation from the study because the study was measuring the attitude towards marriage. And she said that the participant should not think about all these things, and she need to focus on studies right now. So and all these experiences are post RPDA Act. So I just wanted to give the overview that how deep.
There is.
Hello.
Yes, now it's working. Yes.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
How deep you were saying?
Yeah. So how deep the roots of justice have gone, and how deeper it needs to go, and how we need to speeden up this process. So since the enactment of Act, I wanted to ask like how many state governments or how many central government or state commissioners of disability or CCPD have recommended certain suggestions to improve or to speed up the delivery of justice for persons with disability. Thankfully, we have the Section 84, which stands as a revolution, and it has like district. It states that there should be district courts, but I think still it is not being translated entirely into practice. One of the experiences which I wanted to quote from Dr. Satyendra also, where from him I have heard that when he visited one of the session courts to implement the recommendations from SCPD of Delhi on the rehabilitation center in his hospital, the session court first he noticed that it was not at all aware about the special courts, and secondly he was turned away and asked to go to the High Court and make a case there. So I have a question that why the High Court needs to be burdened with the district matter when we have such a progressive law already, and how we can make district courts accountable for being so ignorant about the law. Yeah. Then I also wanted to highlight the Section 85 already is clearly laying out that state government needs to appoint the advocate who can look into the matters. But again, we need to dependent upon courts. We are taking help of the courts to provide a teeth, to this progressive law. So we need to understand the gaps. We need to identify the barriers and how we can bridge these barriers. And one of the way I feel that is it can be through research. And since law also mandate that SCPD and CCPD should undertake research and promote research for rights of persons with disability. And I wanted to ask, can there be support provided for research? Can there be action research which identify the barriers, which suggest some measures to improve the speedy delivery of justice? And as we all know that the data becomes a denominator to design implementation strategies. And there is another way which I think is can we create more and more awareness among the lawyers, among the police force, even among the counselors which are working in the family court? And it needs, can we start this awareness right from the training? It can be the part of the syllabus, so that they are just not learning about the Disability Act, but they are also learning about the challenges faced by the disability community. And another important thing which I feel is also the involvement of the community, the participation by creating awareness. I think Smita has very beautifully articulated that. So because it is important to create awareness so that there is a language that they have to express their injustice. They feel that there is some reduction to visit the courts. The inhibition that they face, the fear that they face. So there is some reduction in that. And most importantly, can we create awareness among the caregivers also, so that the community gets support? They get that hope that okay, we can take this steps, we can face this barrier, and we can continue this long and tedious journey. And again, that my battle is not just my battle, but it is a fight for all of us. And I think we have already spoken a lot yesterday about how we can make this process accessible through accessible documents, how we need to have sign language interpreters in the police force, in the police stations, in the courts. So I would not go into detail, but I just wanted to say why it is important to have accessible special courts, because the cost of injustice is already much higher for the marginalized community. And as the marginalized increases, the cost of injustice also increases. So we also need to understand always the intersectionality of the person. For example, if there is a trans woman who is a blind, who is from the Dalit community, and if she wants to access justice, then she needs to definitely muster courage. She needs to cross barriers which are infrastructural, which are social, which are attitudinal, which we know. And she needs to also sacrifice certain things, which could be family support, which could be some of her finances. And after crossing all the hurdles, when she's coming to when she's knocking the door of the court, can she have the privilege of at least being hopeful? And can she have that one question, only one question, that will I find justice here? And do we have the answer to say that yes, you can find? So thank you.
I think we should take a minute to just absorb that and see what we can do to, act on that insight in terms of reaching out to the citizens, the disability, and the CGI often talks about this. This applies not just here, but like disability, but more broadly. That rather than the citizen having to go to the courts and having to face the intimidation that comes from our courts, which are anyway colonial institutions, how do we make the courts reach out to the citizen? There's that song from Nalsa that was played yesterday. I forget the exact language, but it was Nyayalaya aapke ghar aayega. Like, how do we facilitate that? So, in the same way, we spoke about mobile courts yesterday. But if we are able to find ways of making sure that disability commissioners and special court proactively reach out to persons with disabilities and they can register grievances in the easiest manner possible, that may alleviate some of the concerns that Bhakti has voiced. I'll now call on Mr. Mukherjee. Mr. Mukherjee, if you could, I'm deviating a little bit from the script that was given to me. If you could share a little bit about the process flow that you follow, because yours is really ahead, your commission under your 3 years of leadership has been ahead of the curve, right? There is consensus on that, in that there is a high rate of disposal. You've also taken action for non-compliance. So we need to figure out what it is that you are doing well so that other states which have the will can also do so. So can you break it down for us? Like today I go to a hotel, I'm a person on a wheelchair, they don't have a ramp, I file a complaint on the Delhi Commission or send you an email to the Delhi Commission. Then what happens exactly? Step by step, if you could take us from start to finish the life cycle.
Okay, hi. So, you see, every individual is different and it is more individualistic than a process. This needs to be understood. One needs to be proactive. So, when I received that particular complaint from you, that this particular restaurant was not accessible, so I first sent a notice to that particular restaurant in Delhi, and I told them that you file an ATR, action taken report. And I gave them a time frame, and I also said that if you do not do that, you will be liable to be fined, and including closure of your restaurant. So that really helped, and they complied, and they sent me photographs, videographs. I sent my welfare officers and complied with it.
So all part of the initial notice itself?
Yes, all part of the initial. It's that I said. I mean, I don't just leave it on a notice. I ring them up myself. I talk to them. I send my welfare officers. I visit myself at times. And out of the two that Rahul is talking about, one particular restaurant I myself visited. And continuing with that, Delhi has got 12 municipal zones. So I have given notice to each and every multi-authority in Delhi on accessibility, starting with the chief of PWD, with the deputy commissioner, with the DMs, with the TCPs, with the traffic. And I've asked them why you should not be penalized for not providing access. I started with the hospitals of Delhi, AIMS, Safdarjung, big hospital, national. White people come from all over, not accessible. Not only for PWDs, not accessible to the general public. There are parking, there are vendors, obstructions, and nobody cares. And it's a national capital. I feel ashamed. So I took note and I, send them so many notices. I'll not say, and as my friend from Nagaland was saying, that everything is not hunky-dory. It does not happen overnight. You have to keep on testing, keep on following. That's the art of grievance redressal. It does not happen in one go. You have to keep on constantly be at it. And one has to be passionate. If one is not passionate, things will not happen. So I take each and every case very passionate. And that's maybe the reason of getting almost about 89% of success out of all the. And mind you, when I took over post-COVID, I had almost 1,000 plus cases, and which I disposed of hearing day and night, 6, 7, 10 cases a day. So that is one thing. And as I said, on a lighter vein, it's all very individual. I will not take name. There was an officer, a very senior IS officer, and prior to his posting to a particular post, which was considered a khudda post or a gadha post or an insignificant post. So that gentleman went through the complete procedures of that particular office, that post, and I'll tell you, or you can all guess, he made the most strong person in the country almost kneel down. So if there is a will and if there is passion, then I think anything is achievable. And on a lighter vein, I don't send recommendation. So it could be contrary to the RPWD Act. I only pass on. On research, you talked about. So I have written to, there are 3 universities in Delhi. So I have written to all the 3 vice chancellors, and I have visited them personally. I called upon them and I have encouraged them. And for your information, the IP University in Delhi has already commissioned a couple of researches on the various aspects out of 21. I don't know how many they will take, because another plus point is the concerned vice chancellor himself is a doctor. Right? Yeah. And just I had brought in some pointers. I didn't discuss with Satyendra and others. Yes. So this, the pointers. This is the need for wider and holistic awareness, sensitization. It is not. It should not be in the state of inertia. It's a continuous process. We can't say that मैंने सब कर लिया, मैंने सब भेज दिया, सब awareness. No, it's a continuous process. Keep on doing, and there are ways and means and innovative ways, as Mr. Jain was talking this morning. Right. So I went to the National School of Drama. I went and spoke to that the director there. So I said, you prepare a Nukkad Nata. So he prepared a Nukkad Nata 5 minutes in different languages. So I had almost 200 shows in Delhi, in Marathi, in Bengali, in Tamil, in Hindi, in Punjabi. So especially in the Joggi Jhopri clusters and other places they were enacted. So you have to keep on spreading awareness like that. And the next is very, very important, and we all must strive through all types of leadership that we have, is an attitudinal change and change in the minds, including ourselves. I mean, including PWD lives. Be positive. And accessibility issues, like clarity and enhancement of power of CCPD. That is a very important aspect of the special courts. And my very dear friend and advisor to our commission also, Dr. Satyendra, he visited that court and came and told me that it was, they're not aware. So I wrote a letter to the Chief Justice of High Court Delhi, and on his direction, the Principal Secretary Law of Delhi conducted a workshop, and I called all public prosecutors from all 7 district courts of Delhi. And I'm, I was shocked to see that there was absolutely no evidence. So I took 1.5 day to make them aware. I told them, gave them each a copy of the act. And I said that you have to go through it. It takes about 1.5 hours to max 2 hours to study. There are only 101, clauses here, and you just read it. So awareness with the special courts also is very, very important. The public prosecutors, the lawyers who fight the special on these cases. So there are the ways and means by which we have to, proceed ahead. And lastly, I would say the last. So there are several challenges. The beginning has been done, and we need to strengthen, and we need to go ahead. I'm sure life will be easier, life will be better. So one needs to be, keeping a very positive mind. That's.
So that I think is are the contours of a concrete roadmap for channelizing the sense of anger and hurt that some of us feel on being excluded into pursuing some changes on the ground that can alleviate some of that pain. We are now really nearing the end of our deliberations of this 2-day workshop. What I would like to do in the last, say, 10-15 minutes is for us to identify some take-home messages that we can all implement within our respective states and spheres of influence. So I think the way we could do this is perhaps, Mr. Ambasta, if you can share maybe 3 or 4 main take-home messages, that because you've been most centrally involved in facilitating the deliberations and hearing the grievances, addressing them, etc. So what are some areas which we can work on, and some kind of homework that we can set for everyone, that when we meet next year, we know that, okay, this is what success will mean for us, and even now in the next 1 month, 2 months, what are some issues to work on? Yes. 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 Yes.
So, 2 things very important. And I'm going back one step, back when we talk of how to utilize the criminal provisions which are part of any law. If you look at the process of FIR registration, right, and whenever you want to utilize any provision of law which is not your IPC, CRPC, if let's say you want to utilize the provision of Information Technology Act for dissemination of content in a way which is criminal offence, Section 66A and others. The way it works at the police station is police just usually when you ask them to note the FIR, they would usually not quote any other provisions of the law except your CRPC and IP. Usually that's the standard. Despite you request, firstly to get the FIR itself registered is a challenge. But assuming you got through that challenge itself, and firstly they don't quote any provisions of the law. So the awareness, the first level, because when the charge sheet is prepared, when it goes to the court, that provisions are not appropriately quoted. That's one problem. Second problem is basically how do you simplify this entire process before even you go to the special court? When you register your FIR, firstly, even if you register online, there is an insistence that you go to the police station first, and then they will take your statements again, and then they'll note down the FIR, etc. So that entire process also needs to be strengthened for us to be able to effectively utilize special courts. I think that these are the 2 small points I want.
Thank you, Advocate Amar. Yeah. You want to say something?
I can speak later if you...
No, please go on.
I just wanted to say, everybody's talked about very important things from the legal angle, and on a personal, when we work as an NGO, and I'm talking on public experience, there's this feeling, most of the disabled people feel we are already discriminated. If we will go forward and put the complaint, then we will be further discriminated, not realizing that they will be. What I wanted to say is, can there be, this is a digital era now, can there be a way of provision that maybe there's a short video or something that could be nationally or maybe state-wise be done, or something that could literally tell them how it could be taken forward?
Basically, filing a complaint on another.
Thank you. I think one more question.
I just wanted to ask, isn't it a mandate for new buildings to come up to be accessible?
Yes.
It is. So in Delhi, we recently went to hunting for places, and one very famous place, Bharat Mandapam, is totally non-accessible. Totally.
I have issued notice to them.
Right.
Including Vigyan Bhavan, including Bharat Kala Bhavan, and 10 such big, iconic buildings in Delhi, some notice bell.
Right, because last time I met Sri Rajesh Agarwal, I did tell him after.
We spoke, and I should notice.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. And only thing is that we also have issued notice to Vigyan Bhavan, so it's two different cases. Thank you very much. And takeaways. There are a lot of takeaways personally for me, and I'm very sure for everybody who has participated in this 2 days workshop. We have enriched our experience. There was issues kept flagged. One is about the process of filing complaint. Insofar as the CCPD is concerned, yes sir.
My name is Amir Siddiqui. मैं ईगल स्पेशल राइडर्स का फाउंडर हूँ. मेरे पास एक प्रॉब्लम छोटी सी आई, जैसे कि बेसिक चीज होता है डिसेबल सर्टिफिकेट बनाना. अगर हम उसके लिए, मैं आरएमएल की बात कर रहा हूँ, राम मनोहर लोहिया हॉस्पिटल, अभी आंखों देखी बात, 22 अगस्त 2022 को एक बच्चा जाता है अपने डिसेबल सर्टिफिकेट बनाने के लिए. उसको डेट दी जाती है 22 जून 2024 की. आपको अगर 1.5 साल की बाद की डेट दी जाती है और उसके पेरेंट्स गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर में है, तो क्या वो इनकम टैक्स के लाइबल है, वो इनकम टैक्स को एडवांस है तो उसको बचत होनी चाहिए. बट और छोटी सी चीज है तो उसको बहुत सारे बेनिफिट डिसेबल सर्टिफिकेट से मिलता है. हम अगर दिल्ली जैसे जगह में रह रहे हैं जो राजधानी है, हम इसके लिए अगर कंप्लेन करने जाते हैं तो आर्मी ये बोलता है कि हम एक सुपीरियर है, हम ना तो ऑटोनोमस बॉडी, हम खुद में अपने आप में है, हम सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के रूल फॉलो नहीं करेंगे, हम स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के रूल फॉलो नहीं करेंगे, तो हम जाए किसके पास?
They will have to follow. Okay, back to Mr. Siddiqui. Yes, ma'am. This is the last check.
जैसे कि सर्टिफिकेट के बारे में मैं बोलना चाहती हूँ. मैं लेप्रेसी पर्सन माया रनोरे, एसोसिएशन ऑफ पीपल अफेक्टेड बाय लेप्रेसी. जब हम सर्टिफिकेट बनाने जाते हैं जिस हॉस्पिटल में, तो वहाँ पे आर्थो का डॉक्टर होता है, उनको लेप्रेसी के बारे में कुछ पता नहीं होता, तो वो लेप्रेसी का कैसे देंगे? तो हम कितने बार जाएंगे कि ऐसे ही होता है कि वहाँ बैठते ही नहीं है लेप्रेसी के. तो ऐसा होना चाहिए कि गवर्नमेंट से ही कि वहाँ पे डीएलओ जो स्टेट ऑफिसर है वहाँ पे बैठे और एक अलग से शिविर बना के हमारे लोगों के सर्टिफिकेट दें.
Thank you. At this stage, I can only tell you this much. Morning, when the secretary sir was speaking, he informed the audience that a new SOP has been put in place. Okay, is being put in place, not has been put in place, and a discussion at the top level is going on. Sir, I just also joined us. Mr. Siddiqui, I would request you on that particular thing. You can send us a complaint. We already have a complaint against RML for certain, cases of issue of, allegedly wrong disability certificate certifying somebody as 0% disabled, for whom AIMS has given 40%, Safdar Singh has given 40%, and a district hospital in Bhopal has given 70%, but RML has given 0%. Sir has already taken up that case not only with RML but Ministry of Health, and got another medical board reconstituted, and the disability evaluated. Today morning only we got to know that the re-evaluation has also taken place on 30th of December. So what I'm trying to say is this: unless it is brought to the knowledge of the Chief Commissioner, of course there are issues. There will be biases, attitudinal problems with different medical board, that will be there. But unless it is brought to the knowledge in a specific individual cases, हमारे लिए मुश्किल होगा उसमें intervene करना. Number one. Number two. Just Makar Saab, I'm coming to you about the process of filing complaint. Many people ask कि इसको कैसे करना. Central government के लिए CCPD के जो rules हैं या Commissioner for Persons with Disability, वो Rule 38 of the RPWD Act provide करता है उसको. And Rule 38 of the RPWD Act में जो भी चीजें लिखी गई हैं, उसके ओवर एंड अबव हम सिर्फ दो चीजें और मांगते हैं जो उस रूल में नहीं लिखा है. एक, हम मांगते हैं डिसेबिलिटी सर्टिफिकेट की कॉपी, जो कि उस 38 रूल के अंदर लिखा नहीं है. और दूसरा, हम एक अंडरटेकिंग मांगते हैं. एवरीबडी इज कंफर्टेबल व्हेन आई स्पीक हिंदी आल्सो? ओके. सो एन अंडरटेकिंग दैट द केस हैज नॉट बीन रेज्ड, is not pending, not been decided by another court of law or a tribunal. These two things over and above the provisions of section 30 rule 38 of the RPWD रूल हम मांगते हैं. एडवोकेट अमर ने अभी वो बात की जो मैं कहना चाहता था, वो ये है कि जब when you file a complaint, please specify what are the rights of the aggrieved person being violated. Which rights? So he just mentioned that please quote the rules which are being violated, or you say that this is how I am being discriminated only on the ground of disability. Okay. In the courts of CCPD or SCPD, it will be difficult if you ask the court to frame a policy, or change a policy, change the act. That power is not vested. Yes, Section 75, Advocate Siddharth was here, and he did point out that 75(1)(a) gives mandate to the Chief Commissioner, and Section 80 gives mandate to the SCPD to bring out the gaps between any existing law and the RPWD Act. To that extent, definitely we can take up cases based on complaint or even suo motu. So we do take that. About takeaways, invisible disability was discussed at length yesterday. So there are issues on that. Then a session with Justice Lalit yesterday, where the state commissioners got the kind of advice, direction from the Honorable former Chief Justice that you can very well ensure compliance. And I'm repeating his words. He said you don't only have power to summon somebody, you have a power to enforce attendance. When the Act is using the word enforce attendance, that means you have some power of compliance. Otherwise, how do you enforce attendance? So in that spirit, there is some power to also seek compliance. And of course, the session just before this also was very informative about provisions of Section 93, 75, and 77. So thanks to the panel speakers. About the state commissioners, every state commissioner has shared good practices. So, for example, Delhi State Commissioner personally visiting, seeing the accessibility for himself. Haryana former State Commissioner Advocate Makkar imposing penalties, fines. Karnataka State Commissioner has spoken about having their PWD reps at gram, block and Jila Panchayat level. Similarly, Madhya Pradesh Commissioner has spoken about having covered already 80% of the districts through his mobile courts, where the attendance of the district magistrate is ensured beforehand. In fact, he always seeks time from the district, the DM of the district when he is available only after ascertaining the availability of the he holds the mobile courts. So these were some of the takeaways from the session and today's workshop. And of course, we have got many issues on which we are promptly going to take up cases, like few suo motu cases, and in some of the cases yesterday, Brand Ambassador Chaitanya was here. If anybody has his number, please call him and tell him that we are expecting a mail from him for taking up the matter of reporting crimes against persons with disabilities by the NCRP. Okay, so in principle approval, sir has already given last night, and so therefore we will be taking up the case. There are several other takeaways we have got from the 2 days program. Definitely we will move with greater alacrity and attention. Thank you very much.
Karwaki from Iprobono. Sorry. Karwaki wanted to give a short vote of thanks for the panel discussion that was just held, so I'll hand it over to her.
Thank you so much, Rahul. I'll not take a lot of time. I know I'll be a little mindful. We're already running quite over time. I'm Karwaki Mohanty. I'm a lawyer and senior program officer at iProbono, which is a social justice organization. Firstly, I want to thank Dr. Satyendra for giving us this opportunity to curate and plan this session with him. Rahul for kindly agreeing to co-moderate it with Dr. Singh and the esteemed panelists for their crucial insights. I would have discussed some of the key takeaways, but as Mr. Mastha has clearly pointed out some important points, I would not go into all of that. But Sir Rajesh Agarwal is here. So what I would say is let's all come up with some of the recommendations that we have discussed within these 2 days, and maybe we can submit something to sir as like a collation of whatever information that we all have gathered in these 2 days. We can submit something to sir. We'll be happy to do it, and we can definitely take inputs from everyone, and from Rahul, as he's been really a pioneer in conducting these 2 days of conference, and so we'll be happy to submit that to you. These are the two IDs. If there are any recommendations in relation to the discussion that went on today in the panel, please feel free to write to us. We'll also separately write to all the commissioners present here and take their opinions and recommendations. Saying that, can I take a few minutes more to give a brief introduction about our organization? Because I think some of you here don't know about us. We are a social justice organization which brings together the expertise of our panel lawyers, insights of our partner organizations, and the ethos of social action litigation to advance justice and equality in India. By panel lawyers, I mean a dedicated bunch of lawyers who are empaneled with us and provide pro bono legal support or free of cost legal services to disadvantaged clients. We have panels in Delhi, Bangalore, Bombay, and Kolkata. Our work spans across a variety of areas like child rights, housing justice, under trial work, and most recently we have started working in the disability rights space. It's been really inspiring to witness the relentless dedication of everyone in the space, and has inspired and fueled our resolve to collaborate for impactful legal solutions. And these 2 days with all of you has kind of strengthened strengthened us in a way that we have learned so much from everyone present here, and we love to work collaboratively with all of you. Thank you so much.
Before we move to the last segment of the session, may I request Mahur and Ayushmita to please hand over mementos to our esteemed panelists who are at the dais. I'm not repeating names because these names need no introduction. Guys, claps would be an accessible way to say that they have got their mementos. So Bhakti, Smita just got mementos. Thank you so much. Dr. Nanita, thank you so much. Advocate Siddharth, amazing insights. Thank you so much for that. Karwaki and Shrutika, our partners in crime, I must say. Thank you so much. And under the guidance of whom we do all the ingenious stuff, Dr. Singh, of course, and the man who leads the crusade, Rahul, of course. थोड़ा तो जोर से क्लैप बनता है यार. And of course, ma'am from Nagaland SCPD, thank you so much. Quite insightful. Before I end this session, I just wanted to take 2-3 minutes to just lay down few closing thoughts. One immediate action point, I think, for all state commissioners should be that we should have a functional website and email ID. And if this idea of integrated CCPD codes, gov.in, if that works, I think that will be the excellent thing. But even while that may be another mechanism, but every state commissioner should have a separate website and an email ID and a functioning telephone number where people could report their problems. Second, I think given that we all have been here in these 2 days workshop, we all can collaborate through WhatsApp group that we have. for any legal support that you need, if you need a research to be done on legal aspect, or if you need an opinion on how to interpret the law or how to utilize the existing provisions to advance rights of persons with disabilities, I think I can commit this on behalf of Mission Accessibility. Just to tell you very briefly about Mission Accessibility, we advance disability rights through 3 verticals. One is sensitization. I won't want to spend in detail on what do we do in sensitization. I think we all know awareness generation through various means. Second is we also do capacity building, where we liaise with specific service providers or solution providers to increase their awareness and give them the know-how to realize rights for persons with disabilities as well as accessibility. And third is grievance redressal, where we take up causes, of course, to the extent we can take pro bono, we do take pro bono, plus we take causes on behalf of aggrieved persons, and we help them, of course, through Rahul, litigate them well, and our team Mahur, and we take those through using appropriate judicial forums, which involves to a great extent CCPD, and we through this workshop we hope to be able to come for support to the state commissioners as well. Third thing is very important. I think it's because we want all establishments, I'm using the term establishments consciously, to notify their equal opportunity policy. There are 2 things which I think are missing. One is a process which should be detailed on every website as to how the equal opportunity policy needs to be intimated to the respective state commissioner, which could be by way of a letter or an email, etc. That I leave upon your good judgment. Second, which is important, is that the equal opportunity policy equally needs to be displayed on the website of the concerned establishment. This, I think, is really a missing piece right now. We have seen many cases where there is an equal opportunity policy being notified and registered, but is not being displayed on the website of the respective establishment. And the last thing before I close, which I take this cue from what Ranjan Mukherjee sir said, I think having a comprehensive notice being issued at the first instance, which would lay down the relative, the respective provisions which are important, including Section 3, Section 21, Section 89, 90, amongst others, and the relevant rules which are important for establishments to know, because one of the challenges is that the Disability Act is not well read by the organizations which are implementing it. And I'm not talking about our offices, I'm talking about the establishments or the people against whom we may have complaints. So having a comprehensive notice which asks for things like action taken, report, etc., I think we all can, as respective state commissioners and of course CCPD, we continue to coordinate. So we all can take up together and make sure that these things are done in a time-bound manner. I think these would be my key home messages. I can't thank enough Rajesh Agarwal sir, Praveen Ambasta sir, and all the state commissioners. You all have participated with so much of humbleness, so much of politeness, so much of humility, and you've been such an active participant and such an active listener of the problems which people have highlighted. Thank you so much. Thank you to the State Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities, Goa, and their entire team for putting out this tirelessly this entire event. And thank you to our advisors, our this event provider, the Vivanta by Taj. Needless to say, thank you to our own team, Ayushmita, Mahur, and all others. There are many names, Tanesh, Shashank, Anjali, many names at the back end who have worked tirelessly to put this together. So thank you so much. Just before I end this, may I request our team, and Rahul, maybe you can go along with Ayushmita or Mahur, to please hand over the memento to Rajesh Agarwal sir and Praveen Ambasta sir.